Welcome back, everyone. Wow, it is great to be back. I wasn't really feeling like doing this today. I just got off work, did a whole production day. We did a live stream for National University. And, well, let's just say I had an iced coffee and now I'm ready to rumble. You know what I'm saying? Caffeine, the only drug that you're legally allowed to be addicted to. And let's get into this thing. This is going to be fun, guys. So really quick before we get started, I wanted to plug that there is a brand new guide on the filmmakersblog.com. It's called the Jumpstart to Exposure Guide. A lot of people know it, but very few people know it really well. What you'll be able to learn, among many other things, is how to change your settings without changing your exposure. You may have the most perfect exposure, but you want to change either more depth of field or more motion blur or something else like that. I'll show you how to do that without even changing your exposure. Go check that out. It's on the front page of the filmmakersblog.com. So one thing really quick that I wanted to get started with is to say that filmmaking is so taxing. It's taxing physically and mentally. Every single time that I make a film, right after I experience the production hangover. Now, what is the production hangover? Well, it's exactly what you think it's going to be. It's when you've just gone too hard, too fast, and now you have no energy and no desire to get back out there and make another film because you're just so, I'm not going to say scared, but put back by the amount of work that you have to do again to create the same product or even a better product. So, the production hangover. I had a big one on my last job. I was an assistant director for a feature film back in August. I think some of you knew about that. I told everybody I was going to Oklahoma to shoot a film. And man, the longest film I've ever been a part of was a 4-day shoot. This, around 21 days. And I mean, that's a lot of days. We were doing 6 days a week at around 12 to 10 hours a day. That type of schedule can wear you down. I've worked hard before on set. When I shot The Long Walk, now a year ago, man, we finished that in October of last year. And it's in the festival circuit right now, by the way, if you're wondering how that's doing. To finish that film, because it's a 20-minute film, and to finish that film, we did 2 12-hour days and an additional 2 20-hour days. And the 2 20-hour days were back-to-back. That is straight up driving out to location, which was 2 hours away, by the way, in the middle of nowhere. You would drive for about an hour and a half on road and then a dirt road going up the mountains past this super sketchy bridge. It was called Dad's Bridge. Someone built it. I think like the owner of the property's great-great-grandfather built that bridge called Dad's Bridge. It's metal. It actually was sturdier than you expected when you're looking at it, and it had at least about 150 foot fall off down the middle, just rocks down there. So great, whatever, granddaddy did a great job, and that's why I'm speaking here today. But then when you passed over this bridge and continued on that dirt road, then we got to set. That's like, especially as a student film at the time, nobody else was putting that much effort, and that was a lot of time spent just travel there. And then after all that, you still had to film for 12 hours, and on the last 2 days, up to 20 hours, drive back, fell asleep for about 2 hours, did it all again. After all of that, yeah, I was dead tired, insanely tired. I've done some very long days before, but it doesn't quite compare to the feeling on week 2 of this 3-week shoot, where you've just been grinding day in, day out. You're tired. You just got to plug through. But my next thought was, man, I need a break before I do that again. Now, there's some people that hopped from that show onto another show. And man, props to them. They have that 12-hour day, work grind built into them. Or they've just been doing it long enough where it doesn't faze them. But that was my first experience in a 21-day shoot. Man, it was taxing. So after I got back in the beginning of September, the last thing I wanted to do was be on set. That was the last thing I wanted to do. I did a lot of editing for work. I did a couple of really short day-long productions for just different corporate videos here and there. But the thought of making an actual short film, another short film for the channel or for me, was just nowhere near in the future. And I was not feeling it at all. And I think that's actually was a good thing for a moment, because it really got me into writing. And I've been learning a lot, reading a lot about writing, about dialogue. And that's just a good way to, mix it up, as well as try to keep yourself well-rounded. But the point I'm getting at is that production hangovers are real. But you know what gets you back? You know what gets you back? That itch. That itch to be creative, that itch to make something. And after a month, almost a month and a half, I'm starting to sober up and I'm starting to get that itch again. And what's helping is that it's October, baby. This is the month of horror. This is the month of creating screams and creating suspense. And I have yet to shoot like a horror film, like a straight up horror, like a thriller horror or something like that. And I'm actually getting pretty excited that I want to test my hand at that type of film. Having this kind of energy and build within me is helping me get out of that production hangover slump and trying to be more of a creative again, grabbing the camera and putting something together. So with that, I'm thinking about creating a Halloween short film. I mean, that sounds pretty sweet to me, and I hope you guys are excited. There's a couple things I wanted to talk about in terms of trying not to get that production hangover after this shoot and trying to continue with the creative juices. And a couple things I wanted to just share with y'all is that not everything that you work on needs to be all out. What do I mean by that? That doesn't mean that you don't try hard. That doesn't mean you cut corners. That just means you don't do 20-hour days. That just means you don't stay up all night to edit it. That just means you don't completely tax yourself to the point where you're dehydrated and over-caffeinated and you get a migraine and you have to sit in bed for 10 hours. Well, that might not be you, but that's definitely me. So there's an idea that you don't need to go all out. Now, what's the biggest way not to go all out, but still work very hard to create a quality film? And that's to delegate. Create a crew of people that you trust, and a decently sized crew so that you don't have to wear 20 hats. Maybe you can only wear 3, and you can keep it manageable at that point. But get a crew, get some people you trust, and everyone on the same page, and create something together. Filmmaking is a team sport. Not one person wins the game. Even if they make a massive play, not one person makes a movie by themselves. It's a team sport. You need a crew. Another thing is to keep it small. Keep it creative, and keep it fun. Not saying that none of the past projects I did were not small, creative, or fun, but The Long Walk was big. The whole idea was to go big. And I think we achieved that for sure. We did a lot of things we've never done before. We worked with blood squibs. We worked with action sequences. We worked with being on location in a remote area, because that was very challenging. You don't really think about it until you're like, wait, we don't have running water, we don't have a stove, and we need to feed 20 people in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. If you're listening, Olivia, thank you very much for being our producer. She made tacos for us in the middle of nowhere with those conditions, so she's the GOAT. But moving on, keep it small. Not everything has to be grandiose. Not everything does. A lot of stories are contained, and a lot of great stories are contained. Keep it creative. Something that really makes you have fun with the film is finding out different ways to tell the story. Finding out different ways to take the shot. Finding out different ways to hit those story beats. And since we're talking about horror, create suspense, create that fear factor. Keep it creative. And lastly, keep it fun, dude. Keep it fun. The atmosphere on set has got to be fun, and it's got to be driven. I'd say driven and fun are like two main key points that makes a set very productive. If everyone's having a good time and they're having a good time for a purpose, and that purpose is to work hard to create this film, man, you are running a well-oiled machine that will just crap out quality films. Now, knowing me, I always love going big. Every idea I have is kind of this big scope, all these big things are happening, and I have to kind of reel myself back and knowing that there's no budget for that. There's like no way we're going to be doing that. So let's figure out a different way to do it. But this is kind of where we go back to keep it creative. When you're thinking about different ways to do it, it's not just different ways that are easy or different ways that are just cliche. You got to get creative with it. Show me something different. Another thing I think of, which I think is really important that I really wanted to share with you guys, is that I plan out on working on a couple of aspects of my film before I go into it. I'm almost planning out what I want to work on and what I want to try to nail during the production of my film. Because you already know what you're good at and you know what you need to be better at. And it's great to really pinpoint those things and try to improve the things that need to be improved, because that will greatly improve your overall film. For example, I talked about this for a moment before, but I've never done an action sequence before The Long Walk. That was something that I really wanted to try, something I wanted to get better at, or even attempt. Even if it's something that you haven't even tried and you want to attempt, that's also something great to work on in a short film. So when I think about this horror Halloween short film, there's a couple things that come to mind that are great things to really focus on to try to attempt and achieve in this piece. And the first one would be suspense. A lot of times I feel like a lot of horror shorts kind of rush into things. They want to get to the bloody scene. They want to kill the character. They want to go for that jump scare. But what really makes those scenes scary is how you build up to them. It's the suspense. So I almost want to call it the pillow grabbing, the pillow clutching moments of the film. You know, when I was watching It the other day with my really good friend and neighbor Ben and my girlfriend Annie, and it wasn't really the scares or the faces or the goons that scared us. Other than that one where like the dude's like running headless, like maybe it was the library, the dude running headless in the library. You can kind of, yeah, that was scary. Like Ben screamed his butt off and scared me, and then I scared Annie, and it was just a whole couch full of screams. But the point I'm getting to is that I usually watch a scary movie with a pillow. Yes, I know. Look at that. Yes, I do. The pillow clutching scene is before any of that other stuff happens. It's the suspense. It's what builds up. It's the moment where you feel the tension and you try to cover your eyes. That's the moment that you think this movie is scary. It's not necessarily that jump scare, because right after that, the feeling is gone. You let it out with the scream. The scare is gone. You're moving on. It's that suspense that really builds it up inside of you. That's the pillow clutching scene. That's suspense. That's something that I want to work on this next one. Another thing is pacing. Like I said before, people really want to rush into it. They want to get to the good stuff, And in short films, that's not a bad concept, You only have so much time. Let's get to the action. But I almost feel like in horror, you need to slow that dial back a little bit. You need to build it up. We can start with action, get the viewer's attention, have that good hook, but then bring it back down, because we got to build it back up again. We got to get to that pillow clutching scene. We got to build the suspense, and you build the suspense with good pacing. And the last thing is something completely different. It's just that classic horror lighting, that hard light, hard backlight style, and I just want to take a swing at it. Have that overarching cinematography style throughout the film to give it that type of look and that type of feel. I may change that third one depending on the story, and like I said, I don't really have a story yet, so this is just coming off the top of my head on something that I'd like to work on. But lighting, I love lighting. Lighting is a big thing for me, so whatever it is, I'm going to work on a new style of lighting. Now I challenge you to take a look at your past short films, pick out a couple things that you did well, and pick out a couple things that didn't come out so well. Maybe it has nothing to do with any of the things I've said today. Maybe it's sound design. Maybe it's sound. Is your sound kind of rough? Is it crappy? Write it down. Let's pinpoint those things that need to improve. And then write down another couple things that are things that you'd like to attempt in the future. Now you have a good map and a direction to what it means for you to be better in your next film. You have 3 things you did right, which you should do right again. You have 3 things to work on, which are going to be great in this next one. And you have a couple things you want to attempt. That's already the recipe for a better short film. So there you have it. Thank you for listening to this episode. A quick plug, there's a brand new guide on the filmmakersblog.com. It's called Jumpstart to Exposure. It has everything you need to know about ISO, shutter speed, and the aperture. A lot of people know about that stuff, but not very many people know it well. And in there, there's so much information, but I think one of the key points is the fact that you'll be able to know how to change your settings in videography and photography without changing your exposure. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch up in the next episode.